Are you looking for the best cold plunge on Amazon? I've got this right here. This is a chiller that you can buy on Amazon. I got the pump right there that you can also buy on Amazon. And you can create this DIY type of contraption. You might see some other brands using this as like a way to be able to create a cold plunge using your bathtub. And that's what I did, because I wanted something to test out to see how much I liked doing cold plunges. So this is a 1/2 horsepower chiller right here. They're usually made for aquariums. So, you have cold water fish, and those fish, the water in the tank needs to be cold. And so you put one of these kind of out of sight, and then that chills the water for the fish. Well, a lot of people have been doing cold plunges these days, and they use this to be able to get their water cold enough, whether it's an outdoor tub or a bathtub like I've been using here for the past year. And I've got all my stats right here that I want to go over with you guys to show y'all how this thing operated for me and give you guys my experience over doing this for an entire year. Also, I think it's very interesting in the app that I use, which I'll get to in just a minute. It shows me like all my averages and whatnot. And so I want to share all that with you guys. But just a little bit about this particular chiller right here. It's easy to install. It doesn't weigh that much, compared to other chillers that are bigger. But a bigger chiller is going to cool off your water faster. Same thing with the pump right here. You can get these pumps to go a certain amount of gallons per minute, depending on how powerful you want your pump to be. Of course, the more powerful it is, the more expensive it's going to be. And so once I wanted this to be able to test out cold plunging for the first year. For a year or a year and a half before that, I was just taking cold showers. At the end of my shower, I'd turn on just cold water. And that was kind of it was almost like prep for me. And then I was like, okay, I'm kind of into this. Let's see what we can do kind of on a cheaper scale. And so I found this thing on Amazon. I got it all connected up. Whenever I did a live stream of it, actually, of me putting this thing together. And I was having some trouble getting the water through. And over the year, I've kind of found out what I needed to do. And I didn't realize that I needed to prime the pump. And really the only way to do this, kind of gross. I've only had to do it once or twice though. The only way that I've found to prime the pump properly is to take the outflow tube right here, put it up to your mouth or something else and suck. That way you get that force of the water coming through there. And then once it's going through there, it continuously comes through. The other thing about this particular unit is that you need to make sure that you have an outlet for both the chiller and your pump right there. So you're going to need, I got 2 cords that run right here, and I got an outlet up here that they connect on up to. And so just want to make sure that you do have an outlet in your bathroom, or if you're not using it, like I said, I'm using it in the bathtub because I find that the bathtub is the most convenient and optimal place to do this, because you can get a tank outside or whatever, and you can hook all this stuff up to there, but then you have the tank outside. Also, I live down here in Louisiana. August in Louisiana gets really hot. And so you can leave your water out there. You can leave that pump running, the chiller running the entire time. But it's gonna, it's probably not gonna last very long because it's not in a controlled environment. You have all the weather patterns. Last year we had snow, we had hurricanes, we have heat. So there's the environmental factors that you need to take into account whenever you're planning on setting up something like this. But if you're just getting into cold plunging and you want to excuse the pun, test the waters, something like this with a bathtub I think is perfect. And that's what I did for 1 year here. So you have a switch right here on the front that turns on the chiller. It's got the display right here. You can kind of see it glowing red. I can read it on the back there. This is telling me that just turning it on right here, 73 degrees. So inside the house, 73 degrees. And then what I do next is I put my pump down into the water. You'll see a bubble right there to let you know that it is sensing something coming through the outflow right there. And then I have a switch over here that I click, and that turns on the pump. And you can see all the bubbles coming out through right there. And you can see the water coming through the pipes right there. And we now have water coming down into here, getting chilled up. and then outflowing the cold water through there. I guess another way, if you want to be able to make this get colder possibly quicker, would be to make bigger lines, just because you'd have a faster flow of water going through there. I didn't find a need for that because these are the ones that just came with it, and I was testing it out for this year, and it worked. Now, I say it worked. Whenever people do cold plunges, they're like, let's get it to 40 degrees, let's get it to 45 degrees, let's get it to 33 degrees. And I'm like, this Louisiana boy who likes his heat a little bit, doesn't like to be cold very often, let's just try and get it down to like 50, right? I think that would be like kind of a good starting point, especially for this year. And so I entire year going through the winter cycle and everything too. There are some weekends where I'd leave it on, like I'd forget that I turned it on in the morning, and I'd go and like do stuff, projects around the house and whatever, and I'd forget about it, and I'd come back later on in the afternoon and be like, oh yeah, my cold plunge is ready. What's the temperature at? And I was always disappointed with the temperature, especially whenever I left it on for like literally probably 6 hours or something like that. And I think it's just because of the capacity of the chiller right here. Now I will say this, like I mentioned earlier, this is a 1/2 horsepower chiller. You can get a 1 horsepower chiller. It will probably be better. It's still going to be, kind of ugly. Let's face it, this is not pretty. My wife is not a fan of this right here. In fact, she was like, can we get rid of that thing? It takes up too much room. It's ugly, it's black, it's got green hoses. We don't know what to do with it, to try and clean around it and all this type of stuff, because it's not on wheels or anything. You have to actually like pick it up by the handles to move it out and whatnot. And so, all that being said, there are a lot of things that not a huge fan of this thing for, because I'm ready to move up, I'm ready to upgrade. And so if you're at that point, they make chillers that are bigger, like the 1 horsepower, but again, it's not going to be the cutest thing in the bathroom. But that would be the way to be able to get it down to a lower temperature. And so you're probably wondering, Dad, Wayne, what temperature did you get it down to while you were doing this for your year-long project? So the lowest temperature that I ever got was 54 degrees. Close to what I wanted it to be. I was kind of going for that 50. But if I look at my app right here that I use, where I log all of my cold plunges, it tells me my lifetime stats here, and my average temperature is 60 degrees. And I mean, it's cold. Like, whenever I got it down to like 58, 57, I would get a little bit of a shiver going, which is actually a good thing. But the 60 degrees, like, I get in that and I'm like, all right, yeah, we're sitting here. Like, I'm at a point where my body needs a colder temperature, and I haven't gotten to that yet. So 54 was the lowest. That was the day where I just kind of left it on and forgot about it. I think it was either in the late winter or springtime, so the weather outside wasn't like super duper hot. These days, middle of August, I'm lucky to get it down to like a 63 or a 64. This morning, I woke up a little bit later, and so usually what happens is it doesn't have like any kind of timer or schedule that you can set on it. And so whenever I wake up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom, I've got to click this switch on, I got to flip that switch back there, and I put so back up for a little bit. Every night I take a shower, and at the end of the shower, I plug the thing and I fill it up with water. That way throughout the night, during the coldest point of the day, hopefully, it is able to cool it down to the room temperature. And then I drop the pump down into the water, and then in the middle of the night, whenever I got to get up to use the bathroom, I come in here and I flip that on and I turn that on. But it's not every night that I wake up in the middle of the night. So I can't set a schedule for this thing to automatically turn on so that it's, cooling down for me throughout the day. And so that's been kind of one of the struggles with this kind of homemade DIY cold plunge thing. Like I said, you can buy these on Amazon, and they'll get your water cold, depending on what you think cold is. But it's just, if I were to do it again, I'd probably get a 1 horsepower, although I go back to the ugliness of it. It would still be quite ugly. And if if you don't live with anybody else, that may not be that bad of a deal. But also, whenever you go to price the 1 horsepower ones, like those are a lot more expensive. And once you get into that price range, you might want to start looking at some of the other products that are on the market to be able to not only look better, have the higher horsepower, not have the ugly hoses and all this, a little more something that someone else in the family might like looking at. Put it on a schedule. If there's something out there that can be put it on a schedule, that would be awesome, because then at the end of the night, after I draw my water, I can put a hose in there and then have it do some kind of schedule where it automatically kicks on in the middle of the night and I don't have to worry about it. That would be super cool. So just to give you guys an idea of my stats here, I've done 250 cold plunges that I could record on the app. So the highest temperature that you can record on the app is 65 degrees. So if I'm doing a cold plunge at 66 degrees or higher, it's not going to record it into the app for me, which is kind of a, it's one of those things. And so that doesn't include that. And then I also, we travel a lot and whatnot, so there's probably 2 months out of the year that are not included in this. So I wanted to point that out to give you guys an idea of my stats, just to let you know my average weekly stats right now in August. It's sitting at 83 degree temperatures. I did 3 sessions, and the average time, since it was a hotter temperature, I spend more time in there, and it was a 5-minute plunge. So the other thing that I wanted to point out about this particular chiller, and I don't know if the other ones on the market have a solution for this. It works like a refrigerator. It's got a condenser in there and all that type of stuff. And so the condenser part down here, it's got a vent fan on the back because it's got to express hot air. We are in a small bathroom here. Like, I can touch both walls right here, so that's 6 feet. And then I can touch from here, like, that's probably 7 feet, going from the wall almost to the bath. Y'all can see it, almost to the edge of the bathtub right there. So it's a 6 by 7, probably an 8-foot ceiling right here. Small bathroom. This is expressing heat from here, and it gets hot in here. So I also noticed that a lot of times I turn on the vent fan in here to hopefully get rid of some of the heat. Sometimes I don't remember that, and then of course that's going to affect the water temperature as well, because the heat's in this small room. In fact, one day so just to show you guys, on top of the shower here, I keep a meat thermometer, and I just simply open this on up and I test my water through there. So I can put it into here. I don't know if y'all can see that. That is reading 85 degrees right there, 85.8 degrees. This is reading 84 right here on the front of the chiller. So I wanted to point that out because, one, there's usually like a 2-degree difference that I've noticed whenever I measure everything, comparing the here to the actual water. Now, if I put the meat thermometer closer to the outflow of the water, it'll probably go down a little bit more than what it was, just because you have that colder water rushing right onto the tip of the meat thermometer right there. The other thing, though, that I wanted to share with you guys is that the heat coming out of this vent fan right here, it can get hot. Like, this thing just kicked on, so it's probably not going to get super duper hot, but I took a picture of it the other day after it had been running for a few hours. Look, already right here we're at 99 degrees. That's 100 degrees, 101, 102, 3, 4. It's still going up. Like, this thing gets steamy. So we're at 110, 111. It's getting hotter than I expected it to right off the get-go here. But the picture that I wanted to show you from the other day, it got to 121.8 degrees. So that's expressing a lot of heat into here, and it's definitely got to be affecting your bath water that you have there. So, all that being said, is this the best cold plunge on Amazon? For getting started, yes, because it's a small one that you can kind of test the grounds with, see if this is something that you wanted to stick with. If you already know that you want to stick with something like this, and you don't mind the ugliness of it, and you know it's limited in what it can do, then you might want to consider getting the 1 horsepower, what do you call this, chiller, because it'll do it a little bit faster for you. It'll get it colder faster. But then you also might want to consider getting the bigger pump so it can pump more gallons through. Now, I will say this. A company reached out to me. Actually, I reached out to them because I really like their product. I was very curious about it. And if you want to do like a bathtub style of cold plunge, this company right here makes this thing. And I'm very excited to get it installed. It's called Home Plunge. So that's the unit right there. I'm gonna remove this thing and I'm gonna put that right there. That right there, that looks good, right? Like that is a sexy looking model right there. That is a B, and you know what? I think what really does it for me is like you have a white bathtub with the white toilet, and you got this ugly black thing down here. That thing right there, it fits the look of a lot of bathrooms already. And it's on wheels, so you can easily move it around. And I'm very curious to get this thing set up so I can really see the performance of it. The heat, does it have a schedule? What does the hoses look like? How does it look once it's all done and whatnot? If you guys want to check that out below, I'll do that. But if you guys just want to get started, y'all can go and check this product listing below as well. If you just want like a simple